Yes. Thank you, Nitin, and thank you, Pradeep, for that introduction of mine. I frankly feel that you have used more adjectives than what I deserve. But, friends, just now, as Nitin just mentioned, our topic today, it's going to be more than an hour and 15 minutes. I mean, I'm going to test your patience also. Okay, so without wasting much of time, let me have my presentation. Just give me a minute. Yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. Okay, one second. I cannot see the presentation.
Okay. No, now something has gone wrong. We need to clear it off. Yeah, I hope now it's coming. Srikant sir, are you able to see that?
No, I'm not able to see the presentation. That's what.
Okay, okay, okay. So, would you like to share your presentation from
Okay,
your end?
I'll do
Yeah,
that.
that will be better.
I'll do that. I'll do that.
Okay,
Okay.
okay, fine. Srikant sir, you can share from your end and start. No problem.
Can you all see the screen?
Yes,
Yeah, yeah,
it is very much clear.
yeah,
And Pradeep sir, rest of the mics you can mute. So only Srikant sir's mic will be on. Thank
yeah.
you.
So first and foremost, friends, a big welcome to all of you again. And for that half a second of an error, but I again take the occasion to first extend my gratitude to Pune Management Association, OHR, as well as HR Hopes, and also to Pradeep Tupe and Nitin Dangal for that wonderful introduction of mine. Okay, so we go further. Now, friends, industrial relations after the lockdown amidst COVID. What is the topic? Industrial that what's happened is the situation in industrial relations all over India is changing every week, somewhere 8 days, 10 days. We have new advisories, we have new directions, we have new cases of COVID, then something has gone wrong, and then the zones are created differently, and then some people have survived also, and this and that. So, moreover, the Central Health Ministry has already made it clear that we have to live with the COVID now. So, how would be the industrial relations be? I rather had a discussion with Mr. Pradeep Tupe of Pune Management Association, and then ultimately we crystallized down onto this subject. That is the topic today. That is industrial relations after the lockdown. So the lockdown, presumably, it's lifted in many parts of the country. In some parts where there are red zones and containment areas, maybe, and as far as state of Maharashtra is concerned, or in some parts it's already lifted. In Pune, it is going to remain, and that is why industrial relations after the lockdown, but amidst the COVID. So we are not eradicating the COVID, but and I have divided my talk into three segments. Facing the lockdown, we have all faced the lockdown, and what are the repercussions? And this, my talk would be in three phases. One would be facing the lockdown and the challenges it has brought, challenges as far as industries are concerned. Second segment would be as far as the legalities we are going to see. And the last segment would be that yes, COVID is going to be there, world over it's there. India also it's going to remain. And in the COVID, what would be the opportunities? So this is the three-way opportunities. And let me allow to adjust my timing. But as I told you, a safe bet is somewhere 1 hour and 15 minutes, a little bit plus here and there. So that would be the length of the time. And instead of now spending more time, we'll go further. First, before the lockdown, now we have to take the story right from before the lockdown. Lockdown, I presume, at least in Pune, it's going to be lifted up, say, they say so, on 31st of May. I do not know the reality. Now, before the lockdown, even before COVID-19 pandemic raised its ugly head and made our immediate future uncertain, how was the Indian scenario? Was it roses, roses all the way? Was this India was a Soneki Chidiya and everything was very fine? No, the Indian economy was already slowing down. And before the pandemic, India's GDP growth in October-December quarter of 2019 stood at 4.47%. Now, in the previous quarter, it was 6-year low at 4.5%, and the economic growth was already on a downhill. The slump had already begun, and the pandemic has just been a catalyst, and catalyst in the sense it has made things from bad to worse. Now, before the lockdown, private investment was plummeted, and India has not been able to scale up manufacturing. Structural reforms in labor laws can boost private investment, but a crisis like the pandemic, in a crisis like the pandemic, it's really hard. And moreover, you see what's happened in Europe and what's happened in USA. Now, post-19 response to restart the economy needs a whole package of big bang reforms, labor reforms are only a part of it. And I will again take a pause and again enlighten everybody that we are talking on a segment. This is not that we can grasp in a lecture of 1 hour and 20 minutes everything. This is a segment, and again, those of you all who have joined late, I take back to the topic industrial relations after the lockdown amidst the COVID. So the COVID is going to be there, and what's there? Okay. In pre-COVID economy to circumvent the rigorous labor policies, companies either shifted their manufacturing bases to foreign countries or elsewhere and they turned capital intensive, reducing their manpower, and private investment had already slumped. So the picture was not very, say, motivating. And in this, now what has happened is then came the COVID, then came advisories, then came legalities, then came, say, payment is not to be reduced, and then nobody is to be terminated from their services. And the hardships, employers had their own stories, employees had their own stories. The employers said that from where should I pay the EMI, equal monthly installments? I have taken loans of crores of rupees. From where do I pay that? Work orders are almost reduced to a nullity, etc. They had their own stories. Employees, on the other hand, said that I have to run my household. Your question is of repaying the loan. My question is of a livelihood, my right to livelihood. And what about my daily bread? Now, you see, as Indians, on humanitarian grounds, there are no two opinions in any part of the country, that we have to pay all of these people in distress, whatever. On humanitarian grounds, everybody is on the same plane that yes, everybody is to help each other. Now, it raised certain questions. What happened to the rights contained in the various labor legislations when the provisions of the Disaster Management Act 2005 were invoked? Whether the various labor legislations were repealed in the light of the DMA, whether constitutional provisions envisaged in the Constitution of India were followed before the reveal, so on and so forth. And there were some litigations in the Supreme Court also. Now, we really start from here. The lockdown cannot go on indefinitely. Okay, the lockdown has to end somewhere. On 22nd of March, Honorable Prime Minister, we had that Thali thing going on, and everybody, we motivated all our doctors and nurses and ward boys. And then it was extended 14th of April, then again extended, and now the deadline is 31st of May. So it is now certain coronavirus is not going to vanish so soon, and we have to live with the virus till a vaccine is found. Everybody around the globe are working for the vaccine, America and Australia and here and there, and we cannot keep the economy shut. How are we to survive? Can we survive the world, 202 countries in a total lockdown? How is the economy going to run? So we cannot keep the economy shut, and we are all waiting for the vaccine. Now, in some quarters there has been some criticism that there was a haphazard manner in which the relaxations were granted by the government. Industries were botched by a lack of clarity and a poor coordination. If you have seen the yeah. Mm. Oh. Just a second. Yeah. Is it okay? Yeah, okay. I was here. Industries were botched up by a lack of
Yeah,
clarity
it is
and poor
okay. Yeah.
industries were botched up by the lack of clarity and poor coordination. Now, if you have seen the television yesterday, what happened? Government of Maharashtra blaming the center that the trains were not sent in time. There is an instance of a train which traveled from Bombay to Gorakhpur, and instead of reaching Gorakhpur, it was diverted somewhere in Orissa. And all the laborers got up to their surprise that they have landed up in Orissa. Now, these are, I mean, barring a few incidences, I will not criticize the government. They are doing their bit. And moreover, what is the rationale? The rationale is a permission to medium industries to reopen if neither the employers nor their employees can make a to and fro daily journey. Now we have all accepted Corona is going to stay. We have all accepted today or tomorrow lockdown is going to get over. And then what about the industries? Industries are going to start 33%, whatever. And can we all have a to and fro journey? Because on the one hand, we'll be facing a situation wherein the Corona is going to increase. I should not meet you and you should not meet me. And then how are we going to run the industry? And what about the economy? And what about the lockdown? And what about the virus? Now, what that calibrated opening of the economy will anyway pose more hassles than keeping it shut down. If you see the situation, but government has to take up a decision, a balance has to be taken, and that is why a calibrated opening of the economy will anyway pose more hassles than keeping it shut down. People may die more of hunger and poverty rather than that of the COVID. So the government is really in a perplexed situation. Now, the plight of the poor and the daily wagers, they cannot survive without any sort of a daily income. We sitting in, say, having had good education, we sit in our houses, but there are thousands and thousands of laborers who can eat only if he works today. If he does not work today, he cannot have 2 square meals a day. What about all those people? So what is the workers' plight? They are not assured of food and work back home. Desperation has forced them to leave the city in order to feed themselves, and the pandemic has forced the city to forsake them. What is their plight? Their plight is much more than you and me. Desperation has forced them. They waited. Ultimately, I mean, to quote Shakespeare, Shakespeare said, "How poor are they, those who have no patience?" But what will these people do? Ultimately, a day came when they took up a decision. Come on, as it is, we have to die in Bombay or we have to die somewhere else. So let's go. And then we saw they all flocked to their cities and native places. And the pandemic has forced the city to forsake them. Now they think at least there will be a roof. Now, some rickshawalas and many of them were interviewed on television that what are you going to do when you go home? Why did you come? Because there is nothing in your village, so you are ultimately going there. But their logic was that at least there will be a roof over their head and they will rustle up something to fill up their empty stomachs rather than die in Bombay. Social anchors in India have shared sorrows and provided for minor reliefs, this organization and that organization, and we are giving this thing to the migrant laborers and everybody. I will not say that they have not done their bit. Whatever was within their hands, they have done. Now, we are faced with another situation, a huge shortage of hands while migrant workers are headed homewards. Now, There are some industrialists who have opened their industries, but there are no workers to work. So this is another situation we are facing immediately after the lockdown. The government has done very little for the middle class and zilch for the industry. They have done nothing for the industry, very little for the middle class. Is the are the whispers from all quarters, and the structural reforms are required. Till then, India cannot profit from the exodus of foreign businesses from China. Now, if you take the total scenario into consideration, on the Chinese front, we have heard that 1,000 companies are leaving, and India wants to have a hold on them. Red carpets are set up for them, and India can, unless we have structural reforms, India cannot profit from the exodus of those foreign businesses from China. Now we go further. So where do we stand for? See, unless we can understand where do we stand today. Yeah. Oh.
No. Actually, sorry to interrupt. Actually, you you pin the Srikanth screen.
Yeah, you can
Pin
pin
the
the
screen. You can
yes, there is one
pin the screen and you can
name
actually
Srikanth
there.
Madegavkar presentation.
You can pin that and you can see whenever somebody is presenting, you just click on that. You can see.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Please pin it on your
Yeah,
screen.
am I visible now? Are the
Yeah,
slides visible?
Please continue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, friends,
Yes, sir.
for all those who have joined late or whatever, so let this go on. If somebody presents, then the total, it's an electronic medium, so it gets disturbed. No problem. Okay, we go further. Now we have to understand, friends, where we stand first and foremost. Yeah. Am I audible? Hello, am I audible?
Yeah,
Okay.
it is
Okay.
audible.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
You are audible.
Okay. Now where do we
Others,
stand?
please put off
Unless we
your
understand.
camera as well. Others, please put off your camera.
Okay. Now, where do we stand? See, we have to understand where do we stand, then only we can understand where we are to go. China, if you see a difference, there's a difference between India and China. China is a closed society. Communism has dominated China since ages. And China is a closed society, but it has opened its doors to foreign money. And India claims to be an open society. You see the paradox. India claims to be an open society, but our doors are always closed for foreign investment. And then we have the Swadeshi thing coming out of us. Now, India is headed for, it's a bad news for you and me, both of us. India is headed for a deep recession in near future, along with major global economies. I mean, they have also plummeted. Everybody is on the downslide. And everybody has had costs of fighting the pandemic. Has anybody thought our locals are in Bombay are already shut? So many, we have, say, one day the market is open, one day the market is not open. Then there is a bun sort of a situation. Everything is closed. It's all going to affect the economy. And what about the hospitals? What about the doctors? I mean, the figures are really bombastic. Somebody told me that the cost of treating one corona patient really is 1 lakh rupees per day. Where is the money? So the costs of fighting the pandemic, where are we heading? So there is going to be a deep recession in the forthcoming years as per some economists. And as you understand, when there is one economist saying that there is going to be a deep recession, there is somebody to disagree with him. But let's not going into the debate. Let us wish everybody all the best and we see. But then what common sense tells us is, yes, all this is going to cost us something. Labor reforms are, now if you talk of labor reform, the inducements by the Reserve Bank of India will show slow progress, and the climate today is very unhelpful. If you have a labor reform, you should have a fertile ground also. And then with the labor reforms, immediately implementing the labor reforms, then there will be inducements by the RBI. All these things, on the one hand, all said and done, but the climate is unhelpful because, see, the world is connected now, not only by internet, but we are dependent on each other. And half the globe, 202 countries are under the pandemic. So what is going to happen? Now, what are the solutions? Now, first solution is government is told that ignore critics and seize the moment. No brownie points from the hostile opposition. You do whatever the opposition is going to oppose something. They are going to criticize you. So some good words of wisdom for the government is that ignore the critics and seize the moment. Learn lessons from other countries to ease the restrictions. See what other countries are doing, Sweden and this and this. And of course, I'm mindful of the fact that everything cannot be compared with foreign countries because there is a huge difference, a world of a difference between India and United States and India and Australia. People think that we can just copy one situation there and paste it into on Indian situations. No, that would not help us. And in China, there is a sluggish recovery for most of the areas. Wuhan, somebody put up a news that yes, Wuhan is today dynamic and it's very vibrant and the malls are open. No, it's not that way. It's a sluggish recovery. We go further. Now, concerns on the post-lockdown era. Every Indian talks. You go anywhere in the marketplace or here in the Dukkad, everywhere. Every Indian talks of lifting the restrictions and returning to our normal lives. People are tired. Small children stay in houses. You and me are fed up. How much are you going to play with the internet and how many movies are you going to see on the mobile? Everything is fed up. Even in South Africa, restrictions will be eased gradually. Now, impact of employers after the lockdown. For a second, friends, I again repeat that what is our topic? It is industrial relations after the lockdown, but amidst the COVID. Now, post-lockdown era, how are we going to have the industrial scenario? It is continuing to enforce social distancing. When I come to industry to work, for example, I have to maintain a distance with somebody else and work from home. Yes, this is the new concept which has emerged. Earlier, only IT companies knew work from home. Now, slowly, this has infiltrated into manufacturing also and imposing certain travel restrictions. Now, our approach has to be gradual. Our, in the sense, the employer's approach has to be gradual and cautious to ensure safety and health. Many a times thought that safety and health. I mean, I am told since childhood that you have to exercise, but this is somewhere with you and me, we both will agree that health and safety were neglected by both of us. But now the approach has to be a very cautious one. And moreover, one has to understand that it will not be business as usual when we return to work. What will happen when our workers come to work? What will happen to the industrial scenario? Is it as it was earlier? No, business will not be as usual. And the economy, there's a negative impact on the income and cash flow of a business. Now, I represent so many multinationals, established companies. They say we do not have money to pay our employees the next month. We are arranging and making ends meet from this way and that way. If this is the situation of big companies and established companies, what happens to the petty businessman and small industrialists? And the national directive, now national executive under the Disaster Management Act, a directive called as COVID-19 Temporary Employer Relief Scheme. They have started that, which will give assistance to employers who are unable to satisfy their wage bills for the closure of their business. Now, all such schemes, Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana and this and that, some are very good schemes. But then the trouble is some people now are up to that when will I get the fruits of this? I mean, the channel is too long and I am too last in the queue. And then nobody knows also that there is a temporary employer relief scheme and which is going to provide assistance to employers. No employer also knows this, barring a few of them. Now, employers should apply to this relief before considering retrenching. I'll come to the retrenching part and we are also going to discuss the legalities. Now, what are the options with employers? Friends, we are in a situation, only talking on a small segment, that is after the lockdown, immediately what is going to happen. Further alternatives to retrenchment. Now, what basically is retrenchment? I am aware of the fact that there are many friends of us who do not know as to what is retrenchment itself. And I will be failing in my duty if I do not uncomplicate whatever I am talking. I will make it very, very simple. What is retrenchment? And I will also take you through the legalities. Retrenchment, friends, is in the vernacular, it is called as Kamgar Kapat. That is reduction of the workforce or downsizing in simple words. I'll give you a very simple example. That I am an employer and this is just an example. I am an employer and there are 10 employees who are working with me. And my only job which is left with me in my industry is to lift a table. That's it. Now, how many people you require to lift a table? 1, 2, maximum 3, 4. I do not require 10 of them. So what do? I call all of them, make them stand in a line. Then I make a seniority list as per their date of joining. And then I said, okay, you are the junior most. So while, and then I ask them to go, but before going, I have to give them some sort of a dakshina on their hands. And that dakshina is called as a retrenchment compensation, which is spelled out in section 25F of the Industrial Disputes Act 1947, which is 15 days of average pay per completed year of service. So I make a line. The last person is given 15 days average pay per completed year of service. Then the ninth person, then the eighth person, then the seventh, six, five, four, and from four, I require four people. So rest go home along with the retrenchment compensation, and four I require. This in simple words is what is retrenchment. Now retrenchment is spelled up just a bit of a law. The gamut of law I have to make everybody understand so that we are on the same plane. Retrenchment, friends, how it operates is section 25F is of the Industrial Disputes Act I just now mentioned. These are conditions precedent to retrenchment. Once section 25F, then there is another section saying section 25FF. That is when the management of an undertaking or the ownership is transferred to another company. Again, you have to pay some compensation to the workers if at all the new company does not want them, and that compensation is equivalent to section 25F, that is 15 days of average pay per completed year of service. Then there comes up another section, that is section 25FFA, wherein a 60 days notice is to be given to the appropriate government in order to close the undertaking. And lastly is section 25FFF, wherein you have to have a closure of the undertaking. Closure means the company vanishes from the ROC, that is the registrar of companies. There is no such company, then it exists. So as we are passing through, the difference between a lockout and a closure is lockout is always temporary, whereas closure is always permanent. But in case of closure also, you have to pay the employees compensation to the tune of 15 days of average pay per completed year of service. Now you see, there are two chapters in the Industrial Disputes Act. I'm just explaining you the gamut of law. The basics have to be understood so that we can proceed further. Two chapters, chapter 5A and chapter 5B. Chapter 5B extends from, say, section 25C to section 25E. And chapter 5A and 5B, I told you, 5B is section 25. I'll just again repeat. 5B passengers are from section 25K to section 25S, and section 25C to section 25E is chapter 5A. Let's not make things complicated. I should not confuse you. So I'll make it very simple. Chapter 5B is a chapter in the Industrial Disputes Act which applies to industries which contain more than 100 people. In their cases, if at all a retrenchment is to be effected, permission of the appropriate government is a must. Same is the case with a layoff. Layoff is spelled up in section 25M. Retrenchment is spelled up in section 25N, and closure in section 25O. But in chapter 5B industries, you have to take a government permission. And which are those industries? They are factories, they are plantations, and they are mines. It will not include industrial establishments, say for example, computer company. Now this much of the law. I think I have made it simple. Now we go further. Further alternatives to retrenchment. People just now, before coming for this lecture, I was just having a look at some video on YouTube wherein people in America that he is going to lose a job, he's lost the job. What about me? Should I lose a job? Will I lose a job? All of the things. What alternatives? Losing a job is the worst thing which can happen to any person. And then what are the alternatives? Consultations with the employees and unions. All employers, mind well, you have to first engage into a consultation. They are all our employees. And hello, hello. A small request to mute everybody's mic. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Now consultations. First is enter into a consultation. They are all our employees. Everybody should have a happy home, and take annual leave and unpaid leave. Now I'm not talking on advisories. Advisories did not allow this. Advisories were very clear that not to reduce the wages and not to terminate anybody's employment. Now people tried ways and methods into when the advisories were into picture. Advisories floated under the Disaster Management Act that I will convert your lockdown period into your annual leave and this thing. Now that is over after 18th of say May, and taking annual leave and unpaid leave, today that option is available. You can have a discussion with the union. See, as it is, you tell them that we are in the same boat and the boat is sinking. So we help each other. This is the time which employer should do. Reducing the working time until the organization gains financial stability. It is said that no tough time lasts forever. It's all temporary. Any sort of a predicament, any sort of a sankat which you have in life is always temporary. So is this going to last forever? No. This is also not going to last forever. So we call the unions and we ask for reducing the working time until the organization gains financial stability. Implementing pay cuts to ease the financial burden, 25% of a cut, 10% of a cut, and placing a moratorium, that is a temporary prohibition on increases of promotions and incentive and bonus payments and this and perks and whatnot. Now, these are alternatives to retrenchment. Otherwise, retrenchment is any termination for any reason whatsoever. That definition under Section 200 of the Industrial Disputes Act 1947. So we are not going to that. This is an alternative because we believe that everybody has to enjoy life and everybody's life can be enjoyed when he remains in the job. Now, what is the impact on employees after the lockdown? Employees can see disruptions affecting their working environment. Now, employees, some have already become nervous. Some say that my management is going to remove me, not today, but the next one, and affect their working environment. Now, the extent of the economic devastation is yet to be known. How much are we going to be economically devastated? Nobody knows, not even the government. And the employees should spend time reviewing their current financial situation. Employees also, on the other hand, should first understand where they are, what is the reserves of your company, what is the balance sheet of your company, how long your company is going to survive, and then you can dictate terms to the employees. Okay. Now, business of life after the lockdown. Now, the virus has transformed the employment landscape, and there have been some winners and some have been losers. In spite of, see, any situation which is good or bad is okay with some, and then it's not okay with some. So, in the virus period also, it's which is going on. There are some winners and there are some losers. For some, business is booming. They are recruiting staff. Yesterday, I read it. There are so many companies who have already people raise also perks also, but not the majority. The majority are suffering devastating economic impact. 30% of the UK workforce has been furloughed. Now 30% of the UK has been furloughed. What is furloughed? Furlough is a pay. It is like a unemployment allowance you get in foreign countries. What about India? India, you do not have anything of this sort of a, unless there is some provision in your certified standing orders. So those people get 30% of the workforce has been furloughed. Workforce mortality is low. Yes, 1,000 people infected with corona, 1,000 are not dying. Mortality is low. So yet let the young go out and work is what people are saying. And parents are equally worried. And if my son goes out and he is so young, if something happens to him, corona does not know age. But then they say that with young people, the immunity is a bit higher. In the bargain, what happens is that if they get infected, they will not die, but they will develop immunity. Now you see, two economists and two politicians and two lawyers never agree with each other, and so is the case with two doctors also. Some say that they will develop an immunity and some say they won't. Now we have to prepare business for a safe return. Employers have statutory duties in relation to health and safety at work. Health and safety is prime. Social distancing, additional hygiene measures. Now, I will not talk on social distancing because everybody is fed up of of hearing these two words over and over again and again. You put up any channel on the TV and they tell us the same thing. Now you see what we do, how to prepare. Staggering working hours, dividing staff into groups or shifts which they do not mix with the other staff, reducing number of staff and visitors in your premises. You will today understand half your visitors have just come to spend time and to have a meeting with you. You can have a rationing on that. No, you come or you can speak with me on video. Consulting with staff and managers about the proposed measures which you have not identified in your risk assessment. Now, those who have not done their risk assessment, you have to do it and then consult with staff and manager about the measures. Staff and managers will need to be restrained in the new protocols and procedures and consider if any changes be made to your business premises. Now, changes to the size and composition of your workforce. We are talking immediately after the lockdown. Amidst COVID, that is the topic of our discussion, and business survival is necessary to consider the reshaping of the workforce. If the business survives, then everything is there. And then you have to see as to how the business is surviving. Now, to reduce the risk of legal claims, these processes must be handled fairly. I just now spoke of wage cut and this and that, but this will be all within legal boundaries. Remember the labor laws, we have Industrial Disputes Act and the Unfair Labor Practices Act, so on and so forth. And everything has to be understood within the legal boundaries. Chapter 5A, it is okay till 100 workers. Chapter 5B, when 100 workers are more, then retrenchment and closure and layoff, you have to have a government permission. I just now, we spoke on it. So within the legal boundaries, staff is being retained, can continue in their current roles or transfer them to new duties. But when you transfer them to new duties, the transfer, you have to take care that the transfer is not a malified one, because under Schedule 4 of the Maharashtra Recognition of Trade Unions and Prevention of Unfair Labor Practices Act, or under Schedule 5 of the Industrial Disputes Act all over India, the action of the employer should not be termed up as an unfair labor practice under item number 3, which says that transfer an employee malified or under the guise of following a management policy. Now, next thing, can we reintegrate staff after the lockdown? Tempers among staff may quickly fray. Now you see, the mob psychology is a very different psychology. So we have to reintegrate the staff after the lockdown. Managers should resolve the tensions through agreement wherever possible. In my humble opinion, agreement is the best thing. You have to make the person agree, and then it is a win-win situation. Starting point is that employees remain employed in their previous positions, and moreover, there are two types of employees. Again, one are managers, they are employees. One are the workmen. Workmen are those who are specifically spelled up in Section 2S of the Industrial Disputes Act, 1947. And who is a workman? One who does manual, skilled, unskilled, technical, clerical, operational, and supervisory work, to whom the provisions of the Army, Navy, and Air Force Act are not applicable. Wages are less than 10,000 rupees per mensum, and who works does not basically, his work basically is not of a managerial cadre. In short, this is the definition, crude definition. Now, the starting point is that employees remain employed in the previous position, and moreover, everybody has to understand, if you change the service conditions, you ought to give a notice under Section 9A of the Industrial Disputes Act, read with the 4th schedule. Unless that is done, and this has a connection, what you see upstairs, within legal boundaries. What is legal boundary? Whatever is the law, that you have to follow that. Now, help the staff as far as their mental health is concerned. Now, what about the mental health? A small request to everybody to switch off their microphones. Okay, I'll proceed further. Now, there are many staff members whose mental health suffers. Yes, I mean, you just think that you are going to be terminated or you are going to lose something. I mean, it just sends jitters down your spines. And then whosoever confident you are just a bundle of jittery nerves. That's it, nothing happens. Employers should be robust in their support mechanisms and the challenges which are going to be posed after the lockdown, and bring improvement. If staff are still refusing to return to work, then the disciplinary process will be followed. I mean, some of the companies which I represent, I mean, the managers told me that the staff, we have called them, but they say we are not going to come. If they are not going to come and return to work, then the law is going to take its own course. It's something like, suppose, forget the COVID, forget everything. You have appointed a person and he refuses to come to work. What will you do? You are going to engage into a disciplinary process. We'll go further. Companies are grappling with survival and the customer retention, stress and burnout, job insecurity, retrenchment and psychological trauma. And what is the employee's view? Employees, see, everybody has got a point of view. Employers, I just mentioned it. What about my loan? What about my EMI? What about my hardship? What about my business risk? And employee says that you have earned enough over the years. Now is the time to shell out some money. And for whom? For your workers, and that's me. So this tug of war is going to go. We are going to have psychological trauma. We have much less deaths than what they have experienced in Europe, and then it is going to increase. So the industrial scenario also, we are going to answer everything. Okay. Now return to work plan. What are the issues? Now lockdown is over. That is our topic. And then we have returned to work. And what are the issues? Employment law and other practical issues, one by one. And we go to the next segment. The duty of care that an employer owes to its employees. First one, how an employer can prepare its workforce and the workplace for a return to work, and some practical tips for managing the workplace as the workers return. Unless you have this blueprint prepared with you, it is dangerous to reopen any industry, because you should know how you are going to face the challenges. Now, what is the employer's duty of care? Employer's duty of care, even otherwise the employer has a duty of care under vicarious liability. You're all aware that liability, that is responsibility in law, is of four types. One is a joint and several liability which functions in partnerships, which is not the topic of our discussion. One is an absolute liability which happened in Bhopal gas tragedy, which is not the topic of our discussion. One is a limited liability which we see in companies, that is again not a part of our discussion. And then the last one is the vicarious liability. Yes, you have a vicarious liability, but to what extent? We'll go further. Employers should ensure the health and welfare of all their employees. Whose duty it is ultimately to ensure health, safety, and welfare of all the employees? It's the duty of the employer only. And then on 16th of April 2020, there is a circular that a comprehensive health insurance is to be taken as regards all employees, as far as which will include COVID. Now you see there are so many insurance schemes, and then some of the schemes don't include diabetes, and some don't include blood pressure, and some don't include it for the first 4 years. Government is very clear. Comprehensive health, you have to ensure that COVID is included, because if somebody dies of COVID, then the insurance company should be held at task. Failure to comply with the duty of care and health and safety can lead to the employment claims and potential criminal liability. Now, failure to have this duty of care in health and safety can lead to employment claims naturally, and criminal liability also. Are you going to play with everybody's life? Safety provisions of the Factory Act 1948, now today, they are still intact, then they remain. Now, preparing the workflows and the workplace also. First, what is written? Very quick guidance. It includes number of practical steps taken out in the form of a checklist. You have to guide everybody. We are reopening. We are entering into a new life now. Risk assessments, whether a return to the workplace is feasible in the light of employer's duty of care, and risks can be mitigated. Can you dilute the risk? How much can you dilute the risk? This is what is needed today, because our topic of discussion is industrial relations immediately after the lockdown, amidst the COVID. The COVID is going on. Employee engagement, the workforce has to develop a return to work plan which is likely to lead to a better assessment of the risks and potential dangers. Role of the recognized union, this is very, very important. We are all aware that a recognized union is the sole bargaining agent. In one company, there can be only one recognized union. There cannot be 7 recognized unions. Recognition, for those of our friends who are new to the subject, recognition is a certificate which is granted by the Honorable Industrial Tribunal, and it is an intra-union dispute. So 3-4 unions asking for a recognition certificate, one of them gets it. Once one of them gets it, that's a recognized union, and under the law, one company is supposed to collectively bargain only with the recognized union only, underline only. You cannot engage into a settlement with some minority union. Make settlements with them. Employee communication, early communication to the employees is paramount, and ultimately data protection, sensitive data, health information. You have to do all of this. Is the new India which we are going to see in companies now. Now, managing at the workplace tips. I'll be a bit fast in some. I will skip something also, because the time is limited. There should be a phased return to reduce pressure on the public transport, working from home, and reasonable adjustments. Over time, managing the workplace, you have to adjust over time also. And then some people want more money with the overtime, but then the adjustments, commuting, avoid using public transport. If you see jam-packed locals in Bombay or buses in Pune, are you going to then, those who are today healthy are going to have a corona? Workplace adjustments, reducing the number of employees, adjust workplaces to ensure social distancing. Hygiene, a high standard of regular cleaning rotas, providing soap, hand sanitizer. This is in a way something common sense that yes, you have to provide all of these things in today's scenario. Work, travel, and meetings. Our managers, companies brag of the thing that my say 50, at any given point of time, 30% of our managers are traveling. Now you have to put up a question on mark on that. Is it necessary for you to travel? Remote options for the meeting, if feasible and preferred, for work over work travel and face-to-face meeting. See, we today are meeting each other. This is also a meeting, but then I am meeting you through the internet. So can this sort of a arrangement be made possible? Vulnerable employees needs of those employees who are particularly vulnerable to COVID-19, you have to just segregate them. And what is his need? He is ultimately our employee. Now, employees who refuse to come to the workplace, employers have a right to take disciplinary action. Now, before taking disciplinary action, they should have an open dialogue. If employees is genuine concerns, I am staying in the containment area, I am in a red zone area, police are not leaving me, this is the issue, that is the issue. Yes, you have to have a sympathetic ear. If employees do not want to return to work, then have we employed you? Appointment letter is there, all conditions are congenial, you have to report to work, otherwise there is going to be a disciplinary action. Managing HR processes, employees should continue with existing HR processes. And as regards temporary employees, see, the issue has to be tackled. Employers should not be wary about making long-term promises to the employees because there are going to be permanency concerns. Because everybody understands that under Section 4C of the model standing orders which are framed under the Industrial Employment Standing Orders Act 1946, after 240 days, everybody goes to the industrial courts and asks for a permanency, and that is why the standing orders also have to be seen. At some companies, I will go a bit faster. Seating arrangement is distributed, is floor wise to maintain social distancing. Zones have been created. See, even government of Maharashtra created 3 zones. It was a red zone, orange zone, and green zone. And then there was a scuffle between municipalities and municipal corporations that why should I be in the red zone and why should my district be in the orange zone? Ultimately, there are only 2 zones now, red and which is not red. That is, employees have a common understanding of do's and don'ts, and all employees should be mandated to use Arogya Setu is the mandate of the government. Now, this was the first segment. Now we come to the legal issues and the challenges. Okay. What does the Constitution say first and foremost? Now, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar laid down the foundation for workers' rights and social security in India. Even a preamble, we the people of India having solemnly resolved to constitute India into what? Sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. But then there is a guarantee which we have given. We in the sense, we the people. And the guarantee is of social justice. And we call contribution of the countless spirit of Shramameva Jayate. So what about the Shramik? Even Mahatma Gandhi said that if all God is to come on earth now, he can only come through the hands of all these Shramiks. Labor rights, now you see, are in a free fall. By suspending labor laws, some of the states have done that. And I will also come to the legality and what is the legal position today. But we are seeing the total scenario. By suspending labor laws, states are exploiting the unique opportunity provided by the national lockdown. Labor rights are disappearing at an astonishing pace. What is surprising is the undemocratic manner by promulgating ordinances and notifying rules. I mean, it's undergone a change. I'll just come to that in a couple of slides. Now, the Disaster Management Act 2005. See, we ought to know a bit of the legal scenario. What happened 10 days back and what is it today? Section 72 of the DMA stated that the provisions shall have effect notwithstanding anything inconsistent with any other law. So according to Section 72, everything remained paralyzed and DMA, that is the Disaster Management Act, came into picture. And a great question came up was, what is the binding force of the advisories? Supreme Court, for those of our friends who do not know the judgment, passed a judgment, Honorable Chief Justice and Nageshwar Rao passed a judgment in Alak Srivastav versus Union of India. And moreover, I mean, when I read the judgment, what is more enlightening is that the Honorable Supreme Court has given directions even to the citizens of India in the judgment. Moreover, Honorable Supreme Court said that disobedience to an order promulgated by a government servant, that is by the Chief Secretary, the government servant, that would be an offense itself under Section 188 of the IPC. This judgment is already there. Moreover, Supreme Court has laid down, we trust and expect that all the concerned, that the governments, public authorities and citizens will comply with all orders. Then we saw a legal journey. Alak Srivastav. Then we had Ludhiana Hand Tools Association versus State of Punjab, Ficus Pax versus State of Karnataka, Nagarika Exports. And the common thread was all for the reduction of salaries, but this was rejected by the Supreme Court. Now, Workmen versus Binni is trite law, trite is old. And welfare legislations, according to this judgment, should be in favor of the weak. Sham Sundar versus Ram is a beneficial legislation which cannot be given a retrospective operation. And there's a judgment by the Aurangabad High Court, that is Rashtriya Shramik Aghadi versus State of Maharashtra, which is as regards no work and no pay. Now what has happened is, after these judgments came Hand Tool Manufacturers Association and Indian Jute Mills Association, wherein Supreme Court said no coercive action against the employers. And then this judgment, it was adjourned by 8 days, and that 8th day or 10th day was yesterday. And yesterday again, government has not filed its affidavit, and again this judgment goes further along with the interim order, that is Supreme Court saying no coercive action will be taken against the employer. So this is the legal position. Now there are some surprises to the labor, and I will come to that also. Consider the extension of work days up to 12 hours. I mean, this has now been withdrawn by the UP government, but how it stood? I mean, we are discussing it academically. Consider the extension of workday up to 12 hours. Simple question. Has anybody thought, can anybody work continuously for 12 hours multiplied by 6 days, because 7 days would be a holiday? The code of wages, now you see, once UP government brings this, you have to array it with code of wages. Code of Wages 2019 has already proposed extension of a workday by only 1 hour, that is 8 to 9. So on the one hand, you are having Code of Wages which says you will work only additional 1 hour, and you produce an ordinance wherein you say now you work for 12 hours. I mean, there's no matching in this. UP ordinances shockingly exempts employers from complying with the Minimum Wages Act. This is too surprising. Code of Wages makes a distinction between national minimum wage. Now you see, national minimum wage is calculated on the basis of an objective formula, and national floor wage without providing a methodology to calculate it. Are we playing with the workers? What is the government doing? UP ordinance exempted employees from even complying with the Industrial Disputes Act, and therefore employers can hire and fire at will. I mean, throughout whatever labor law, at least I have studied throughout my life, is that there cannot be a laissez-faire policy, that is a hire and fire policy in India. And all our stalwart readers, right from Sripad Amrut Dange till N.M. Joshi till Manvendranath Roy to V.V. Giri to R. Venkatraman, everybody till George Fernandez, everybody has battled to bring these rights into place. And yes, just yesterday, Honorable Union Minister for Labor, Mr. Gangwar, he has made a very express statement that reforms does not mean taking away the rights of the laborers. No, we have to have a balanced view. Now, is there a provision to deal with national emergencies in the Industrial Disputes Act? Now, very quickly, I will again take up to the law. Section 2 KKK defines layoff. If an employer is unable to provide employment due to natural calamity or any connected reasons, say there is no raw material, there is no electricity, there are no stocks, for which you can lay off. Layoff is you have to pay a layoff compensation, which is 50% of basic NDA. Then Section 25C of the Industrial Disputes Act mandates the employers employing 50 or more workers who has laid off the workmen to pay a compensation. 25M, I told you in Chapter 5B, requires industrial establishment with more than 100 workers to take up a previous permission, and such permission is not mandated if the layoff is due to a natural calamity. I will come to this slide again. Now, what is the legal position today? We should all know. I told you the scenario is changing after every 10 days, and that is why, for a moment, at the cost of repetition, I again take you to the same position. What is our topic discussion? Industrial relations after the lockdown amidst COVID is our topic of discussion. I am not taking you too much into the future and not too much into the history also. We are in a very small segment, and this segment is going to continue at least till say 4 or 5 months. And then maybe unless the government changes it drastically. What is the legal position today? Government has withdrawn the order to make making wage payments mandatory during the lockdown. So we had those advisories 31st of March and 29th of March. Earlier 29th March order says that all payment should be made to the workers without any deduction. And today, save as otherwise, provided the guidelines annexed to this order. This is the order dated 18th May. All orders issued by the National Executive Committee, headed by Home Secretary Ajay Bhalla, under Section 10(2)(1 of the Disaster Management Act, shall cease to have an effect from 18th of May 2020. In simple words, those orders are now gone. Supreme Court says no action for now. Supreme Court said no action for now against employers who don't pay full wages during the lockdown. People are not having money. And the bench asked, I mean, these are great questions which have been asked by the divisional bench themselves. Honorable Chief Justice and the learned judges asked, the bench asked, how can a concern that was not running keep paying the wages? These were issues that could have been considered. And this is an omnibus order, says Justice Krishna Kaul, who was also on the bench along with Justice B.R. Gavai. This is an omnibus order. This is regardless of the fact whether this is a large-scale industry or a small-scale industry or a petty businessman or a small industrialist. Only one order, just pay everybody and nobody's wages should be reduced and nobody has to be terminated. Supreme Court has expressed surprise at this very omnibus order issued by the Ministry of Home Affairs. But now, as for now, let's go. Supreme Court says no action as for now. UP government has also withdrawn the labor laws changes. In UP, the UP Upfront Workers Front had filed a public interest litigation in Allahabad High Court, challenging the notification of the UP government dated 8th of 2020. And then it was disposed of as infructuous by the Allahabad High Court for the simple reason that it is withdrawn. So now there is no question remaining. And the issues were working hours for 8 to 12 hours a day, regardless of the fact as to whether a person can work. Working hours for factory workers capped at 72 hours in 1 week. This is all surprising. And wages shall be in proportion of the existing wages, that is pro rata. For 12 hours, they are going to distribute. Okay. Surprises now are withdrawn. UP allowed to offer fixed term. We fail to understand one thing, that just because you got a news that 1,000 companies are going to have an exodus from China under the, I will say, a hurried show, that you just laid a red carpet for those companies and without even thinking what effect it is going to have on the present industrial network and the existing laws, just went on suspending this law one after the other. And they allowed to offer fixed term employment without any restrictions on the number of renewals. This is again a surprise. Now, along with UP was MP also. MP ordinance which exempted factories employing less than 50 workers from regular inspections. So there is going to be no inspection. Of course, this is set at rest now. But then it is surprising. MP ordinance for new establishments, provisions, strike and lockouts and trade unions which cease to operate. And the Industrial Relations Code 2019 which proposes a raise of membership and the threshold of a trade union from 15 to 75% of a workforce in the establishment. Now, one question for all of us. Will such suspension of labor rights aimed at reducing labor costs stimulate private investment and ensure recovery? What do you think? Will it do all the what? Where are we heading? And that is why there are going to be widespread protests. And one of them was on 22nd of May. If you have witnessed, there was a widespread protest by all the unions. Of course, much did not happen in the sense because we are already in a lockdown.
Sir, sorry, start the presentation. Presentation is
Can't you see again? Okay, I will just do that. Okay. I hope you all can see it now. Am I visible?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So now we have again ushered into the lockdown is over. Industries have started opening. One more issue has arisen. That I am having a workforce. They are coming to my industry to work. I am a manager, for example, or I am an industrialist and owner. question is who is a suspect? Because suspects have to be reported. Employers may refer the guidelines issued by World Health Organization and the National Center for Disease Control to determine whether an employee may be considered as a
So
suspect.
sometimes,
Am I audible and am I visible? Two things. Okay.
audible, visible, you need to check, sir, once again, please.
Just let me know.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are audible and also visible. Not an issue.
Okay, thank you.
No,
We'll
no
go further.
issues, no issues, sir.
Okay. Now you see, some of our friends, when this webinar was announced, they have sent us many questions, and we are very thankful to that. And I have taken those questions in whatever is the limited time I could answer them. And it's a variety of questions. First is, just a second. I was talking on this. Employers may refer to the guidelines by the World Health Organization to determine whether an employee may be considered as a suspect. Just think of a situation. You as a manager go in your industry and somebody starts looking at you as a suspect that whether you are suffering from COVID-19 or you are not suffering. How would you feel? So there should be some guideline. Now you see, can an employer mandate physical examination of the employees? Moment your employees come, can you have a physical examination? Answer is no. Statutory provisions requiring the employer to direct employees to get medical re-examination done for COVID, but then you should have some power also. Outright the answer is no. But if you see the model standing orders, moreover, model standing order 27A, which gives the right to the employer to have a medical examination. So one can make use of this right and then conduct a medical examination. Employers may suggest employee to get herself medically tested for COVID. And moreover, the best answer is to make a human appeal. Let's see. Maybe you don't have it, but you should not be spreading it also.
Sir, please, sir, unable to see the PPT
Okay,
presentation.
I will do it.
Can
I
you
will do
please?
it again. Yeah,
Okay,
one second.
okay.
One
Thank
second.
you, sir. Thank you.
1 second. Okay, can you see it now?
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you,
Okay,
sir.
thank you. Okay, we go further.
No, gentlemen,
Okay.
you
I was-
just pin it, that PPT, and you can see it.
Okay,
No,
okay.
okay, to-
now
again and
everything
again.
is fine. Okay, we proceed. Okay. So
Yeah.
the power to have a medical examination can be seen in model standing order number 27A, wherein the employer has a power. Now we go further. Can the employer perform non-invasive screening checks on the employees and visitors? Say I am a visitor in your industry and you say I am going to screen you. What right? Presently there are no legal provisions. I am saying visitors. Employees is okay. We have under 27A model standing orders. Advisable that the employers provide advance notification to all employees. Suppose you are going to fix up a meeting, you tell him that you are welcome to our industry, but the moment you come, we are going to take your temperature. Contract workers and visitors about the non-invasive screening measures, like temperature checks will be conducted on them. Clearly mention such screening is only during the current extraordinary situation. They are also aware that the situation is extraordinary. Government on the one hand expects us that we should not be spreading the coronavirus. And then you are, I mean, somebody disallows you to take his temperature, then how are you going to do both the things at the same time? Employers should ensure that screening measures are non-invasive. I mean, non-invasive. There are so many medical procedures, especially with females, that it should be non-invasive. Okay. Does the employer have an obligation to report a suspect case to the health authorities? Now you have started the industry. Lockdown is over. COVID is existing. Industrial relation, that is the topic of our discussion. And then you are having employees coming. And you see that maybe he has corona, maybe he doesn't. So he is a suspect case. Currently, there are no notifications mandatorily, underline mandatorily, requiring the employers. But however, we stay in a country like India, wherein we are taught that we have to help each other. In good faith, report such cases to the competent health authorities. Tell the municipal people, employer may consider giving prior intimation to the employee about such reporting because it should not invade things like right privacy and all of those. So you tell him that, see, this is in your benefit, we are going to get you examined. Does the employee have an obligation to report the occurrence of the infection to the employer? Now, whether an employee should inform the employer. Currently, there are no notifications issued by the government. If the employment contract or the contract, the company policy sets out a clause relating to disclosure of any disease, illness, for which you have to either see your standing orders, it could be model, it could be certified, whatever. If there is a duty cast upon the employee to disclose whatever is his disease or illness, the employee should report COVID-19 occurrence or symptoms to the employer. And moreover, in the absence of an express stipulation, the employer may see, what about the safety of others? Forget the documents. There is nothing in the documents. Are you going to go on spreading coronavirus here and there? So you should tell the employer, you have to, and that's why in one of the slides I stated first is guidance, win-win situation. You tell them, see, it's your benefit, it's first for the benefit of others. So to ensure safety of other employees to contain the outbreak. Now, next question is, can an employer uh, disclose the identity of an employee who has contracted COVID-19? Any information, medical history, physical health, false. Now you see somebody has corona. Can you go and spread the news that this person? Basically, this is called sensitive personal data under the Information Technology Act 2000 and hence should not be disclosed without the written consent of the concerned individual. We do not want any hassles and moreover cases and litigations happening. However, if the consent is refused, the employer should let the relevant authority take necessary steps for contact tracing. Just now we saw this is an extraordinary situation. Companies have started, we have to be with the government also. 33% of the workforce, possibly some working. There are some working from home. Economy also has to run. Corona has to be contained. How are we to do it? So the employer should warn other employees who may have come in contact without disclosing the identity of such employee. Yes, you have to warn others also. Now, if an infected employee has exhausted his sick leaves and requests for additional leaves, can the employer refuse to grant the same? Now, given the general duty of the employer to ensure health and safety, the discretion, settlements, etc. have to be seen. How much is the leave grantable? Factories Act 1948, it is different. Bombay Shops and Establishments and State of Maharashtra, it is different. And then you have to see what are the settlements also. What the Act states is the minimum leave. Say, for example, 1 day for 240 days of working is what is the prescribed, but that is minimum. Today in industries, nothing functions by minimum. The average leaves which are given are to the tune of say 30 to 40. The range in some companies 35, 32, 33, whatever. So you have to see the settlement. However, in India, just excuse me, Karnataka Labour Department has issued a specific notification, Maharashtra government has not, requiring the employers to grant 28 days of paid sick leave to employees who have tested positive for COVID-19. In Karnataka, the moment you are COVID-19, 28 days of paid sick leave, it is paid as well as sick leave. Currently, there are no such orders, I told you, from other state governments, but a sympathetic approach to grant additional leave is to be taken. Can an employee, now I cannot see the first thing, I mean the slide has gone too up. If a services has been terminated due to infection, claim unfair labor practice, I believe. Okay. If an employee's services have been terminated after he remained ill for a prolonged period, now you see the provisions of Section 200 of the Industrial Disputes Act 1947 come into picture. I'll make it simple again. What is 200? Section 200 defines retrenchment. Retrenchment means termination for any reason whatsoever. But it has a non-inclusive part of the definition, that is Section 200B. Double B is the non-inclusive part of the definition, and there are 3-4 situations. One is, suppose if a person superannuates, as it is, he is going to retire tomorrow attaining the age of 60, because under model standing orders, worker retires at 60. So that will not be retrenchment. That is the first exception. Then likewise, say somebody non-renewal of contract, his contract is not renewed, so that cannot be retrenchment. And what we are on the last thing, that is continued ill health. Now what is continued ill health and what is a prolonged period is of course debatable. There are so many judgments of the Supreme Court wherein the judges have differed with each other, wherein they say as to what is a prolonged period. Suppose there are some companies who say he is not coming to the company for 8 days and he is sick. Can it be called as a prolonged period? Some companies say that he is paralyzed and he is absent from the company because of his paralysis for 7 years. Is it a prolonged period? So that will go with time, place, circumstance. But then common sense tells us that it has to be for a prolonged period. Such action determined on the basis of medical opinion. Then you have to take a medical opinion also. Employers adopt a sympathetic approach towards infected employees, but however, we all have to understand any arbitrary action must be avoided. Some people are just waiting to remove their employee under this pretext or the other. And then you say that he is absent for 15 days, and that is why it means he's prolonged, it's a prolonged period. And that is why it cannot be retrenchment and I take recourse to continued ill health. That should be avoided. How soon should an employee who has been infected and recovered be allowed to join office? Now it's a happy news that the mortality rate is low. Some of our employees and some of our friends, relatives, Indian citizens, they are all, he's contacted corona, but then the test is negative. Then they treat him with whatever are the medicines available. And then one day he is recovered. Should he be joining your industry again? Because it's a very sorry state of affairs, and sorry to tell you also, COVID patients are looked upon as untouchables by most of them. The moment he is under COVID, then they say he's a carrier of COVID and nobody talks to him and all of those things. Now, you see, as soon as medical authorities have cleared the concerned employee, that is 2 specimens turn negative, within a period of 24 hours, the concerned employee may be allowed to join the office again. And of course, this has to be with a medical certificate. Now, if a company, I am sorry, I cannot read the first line. The slide has gone a bit up. Joinees who have not joined the services. Okay. This is a slide. What about, say, your company, you have appointed a few people. They were to join but have not joined. What should you do? Company should review the terms of the appointment letter issued to the new joinees. Now you see, here is a question, who is the offerer and who is the offeree? Whether the company has offered him a job or whether that employee has offered himself to be available to work for the company. It's the issue of law. Specific date on which the employee is required to report to work, unless there is any stipulation indicating to the contrary. Now you have given a date that you have to report, say for example on 1st of June. Unless there is any stipulation indicating the contrary, common sense tells us that a company in all such cases, because of the turmoil which is going on, we have to delay all such things. Case to case basis as to when the employment relationship would really commence or revoke the offer at any time prior to the commencement. You have just offered him, but no appointment letter has been given. So whether you can revoke the offer, the answer is yes, because it takes us to issues and there is no time to discuss that as to who is the offerer and who is the offeree. I'll just give you a simple example. I go in a restaurant and I order for, say, example, a vada sambar. And I say, I want a vada sambar after seeing the menu. Who is the offeree? Whether I am offering him that, okay, I want it, or whether he is offering me that, whether he is ready to sell it to me. It's a big issue of law which comes into Indian Contract Act 1872, but that is not a real topic of our discussion today. What are the measures to prevent risk of contagion at the workplace? Employers may take the following precautions. Now, this will be applicable for all of us. Cancel all business work trips to affected regions. Suppose even today there is a free flight. If company people are given to go to Italy and Spain, I believe 90% of them would say no. Because what's the point in going to Italy and Spain now when that is full of corona? Educate the employees on basic hygiene, manner of reporting any suspected case. Now you see, these are new things which are happening and we are ushering into a new era. So because India now will be knowing 2 ages. One is earlier to corona and the second is after corona. And now we are going to be after corona and immediately after the lockdown. Encourage self-reporting and self-quarantine. Frequently communicate regulatory updates and official guidelines. Appoint health and safety officers, train managers. Put in a dedicated hotline, employees working from home. Provide a flexible working environment that takes social distancing. Provide a leave policy with additional sick and other leaves, whether it's factories or shops, and put anti-discrimination policy. This is very important. Put in place an anti-discrimination policy to ensure that affected employees do not feel discriminated. I told you, anybody who is just gone to the municipal hospital and he is, say, diagnosed of corona, he recovers, comes back, but he is looked upon as an untouchable. So anti-discrimination policy, that is, others have to be made to understand that no, you cannot treat him this way. Encourage working from home wherever feasible. Now, what should be done if the employee refuses to report to work? I believe we have done this. If at all somebody refuses to work, no, he cannot refuse. Forget Corona. Now everything is clear. He has to report, and if he refuses, he cannot refuse against the terms of the contract. He's entered into some terms. Ministry of Health, and they have issued advisories, etc., encouraging employers of private organizations to allow employees to work. So private organizations have already allowed them, and if they have allowed, it is the employee who has to work. There is a dictum by Lord Templeman. He says if the employee works, he must be paid. And if he is paid, he must work also. And then, I mean, this is okay. But here he is refusing to work only. Then a disciplinary action will follow. Employer will be required to act as per the central state local advisory once lockdown orders are lifted, which is the topic of our discussion. At the sake of repetition, I will again repeat. Employer should ensure that workplaces are sanitized and managed to avoid risk of a contagion. Now, what preparedness from the employer to facilitate work from home? Now you see and the effects. Work from home was very sparingly used by IT people, but now, I mean, there are whispers in some quarters that after the lifting of the lockdown, big companies are rethinking about their manpower allocation, and they are also thinking upon a subject that do we really need so many people in the company, or some can work from home even after the lockdown? Employers could adopt the following measures to facilitate work from home. Now, this is also going to give rise to some problems. First is ensure effective communication amongst employees to prevent disruption in business. So, effective communication that you are to work from home tomorrow. Ensure employees are aware and adhere to confidentiality obligation. Some of the companies in the appointment letters, they do not have this clause itself. Some have it. Confidentiality. And as per the terms of their respective employment contract, they have to adhere to the confidentiality, because it's sensitive data. Employees should be provided proper IT equipment. That is, encrypted documents should be there, because if there is a leakage of documents, you are going to hold the employee responsible, and that is against the standing orders. Moreover, and the standing orders also mention misconducts, so there ought to be a proving of the misconduct. And how are you to prove the misconducts? You tell him that you have dissipated information. He says, I don't know, somebody hacked my computer and my laptop. What are you going to do? Did the question then before the tribunal or the labor courts would be, was enough precaution provided by the employer? Because the precaution is to be provided by the employer himself. And if the answer is no, how can you make him responsible? Are some new issues which will be coming. Company should ensure that employees are aware and have been trained to use the IT tools. I mean, it's a sorry state of affairs, but some people, including myself, all are not trained to use the computers very efficiently. Employers should intimate employees about the temporariness of work from home. Some people, it should not be a condition of service and a custom. And he says that I am working from home since 4 months, so this has become a custom and forever I am going to work from home only. This cannot happen. This is only a temporary measure, tentative duration, and their expectations while working from home. If an employee is required to carry certain information or documents, it should be provided in an encrypted format to preserve the confidentiality, and this is the onus of the employer. You cannot shift the onus on the employee that it is because of you. You are only making allegations in that situation then. Companies should ensure that effective tools, apps such as VPN, Skype, Cloud, IBM, file sharing, virtual collaboration, all are needed to support the work from home. They are in place. Okay. Employers should have a dedicated remote working facility that allows employees to record hours work. Now in India, what has happened, working from home means working 24 hours is an expectation of some of the employers, not all, but some. He said you are working from home, you are in a relaxed atmosphere, you are with your wife and children and this, and so I can talk with you and make you work at any point of time and for howsoever length of time. Basically, there is effective monitoring of employees, how much he has worked. There are softwares also, because if he works for more than your office hours, your regular timing, then overtime has to be paid. And then the issue is whether it is to be paid on basic and DA and whether it is gross of the ordinary rate of wages. And 90% of the judgments of the Supreme Court say that he is to be paid on gross. And what about right to disconnect? So when a person, your employee is working from home, what about his right to disconnect with you? Right to disconnect is a newly formed right, which is now established in France. And Honorable member of parliament, Supriya Tai Sule of Rashtravari Congress, she has presented this bill in the Parliament of India. It is yet to have a debate and all of those things. But this is a right which will soon be coming, that is right to disconnect. And this will all apply to work for home people. Then you have to ensure work from home is not implemented on a case-to-case basis, resulting in discrimination. Then some employees say that for he is, I mean, you practice favoritism with him. So he is given all the while work from home, and I'm asked all the while to come to the industry or come to the office. Since IT support is crucial in work from home scenario, adequate support personnel to address any technical glitches. Now you see questions of gross and simple negligence. Gross and simple negligence are two separate fundamentals. Wherein, say for gross negligence, it could entail a dismissal of a person also, but for simple negligence, there could be a punishment. Are you going to weigh both of the things in the same scale? So all of these things have to be understood. Employers should ensure that contact information of all employees and relevant stakeholders are readily available. I mean, Supreme Court threw light on gross negligence. Say there was somebody in a case, I believe, subject to correction, that is RM Parmar versus Union of India. I believe that was the case. I mean, I stand to correct myself. But Supreme Court, there is somebody who has put in n number of years. Say, for example, just an example, 36 years of unblemished service. Supreme Court gave some examples that what about the signalman who gives the wrong signal at a railway crossing and causes thousands of passengers to die? 36 years of unblemished service, what is to be done? This is gross negligence, he is to be dismissed. What about the airman who puts a wrong mixture of petrol in the planes and causes it to crash? What should be done? Answer is he should be dismissed. What about the compositor who puts a plus sign instead of a -1 in the question papers and causes thousands of examinees to fail? What is to be done? He is to be dismissed. What about the compounder who puts a wrong mixture of medicine in the eyes of patients and turns them blind? What is to be done? 36 years of unblemished service. The only answer is that he is to be dismissed. Now, all of these issues have to be weighed. Okay, now you see, allowing work from whether the employer, I mean, I cannot see the first sentence, it's gone two up. Okay, no, except where an establishment is subject to a lockdown requirement, several state governments have emphasized on social distancing, advised employees to allow employees to work from home. Few advisories, only this we have seen, staggered shifts, etc. Whether an employee can have a disciplinary action if an employee is not performing his assigned duties while working from home. Now you see, working from home is allowed. You have given him work, but he is not working from home. Now in India, the real issue is who will watch the watchman. I mean, in other countries, everybody understands his duty. And here, work from home is considered something like a leisure unless the company has some softwares to monitor as to what he is doing. This is okay in IT, but in case of manufacturing, everybody to find out as to what quantum of work he has completed is maybe not feasible. Now here, whether an employee can hold disciplinary action if an employee is not performing his assigned duties, the answer is yes, of course. An employer can act against an employee in accordance with well-established procedure. Not to be in violation of applicable laws and principles of natural justice will have to be followed. Moment see you accuse that you have not done your duty, I accuse you of negligence, and a charge sheet is given to him, then you have to hold a departmental inquiry in accordance with the principles of natural justice. As all of us understands, but for some new friends, natural justice is summed up into two maxims. One is audi alteram partem, that is the right to be heard. That before punishing him, I have to hear him. Second is enshrined in another maxim, that is nemo debet esse judex in propria causa, that is nobody can be a judge in his own cause. And then you have to hold a departmental inquiry with all the elements of the departmental inquiry, charge sheet and examination. It's a long drawn out process and the onus is on the employer. All these things will come up. Consideration, this is the scenario, or this is the industrial relations climate which you and me are going to witness immediately after the lockdown amidst the COVID. That is the topic of our discussion. Limitations for employees to perform their assigned tasks from home, unavailability of IT sources. Now in India, you see, there are companies wherein stationery is also not available. Now these people have to make available all the IT resources and connectivity issues. And then you say, what is the bandwidth in your house? He says, I function on a BSNL telephone. or a BSNL network, which is say the line is 2 Mbps, and in my company it is 100 Mbps. So you are having a cart of which one wheel is of a scooter and the other is of a tractor. How will it run? So all of these issues are going to crop up. Now you see, work from home is unviable. Work from home is not a feasible option for establishments engaged in manufacturing facilities. Today is the lockdown. We have to make the economy run. 33% are running. Such establishment can operate at a reduced capacity by engaging less workers in each shift. And government has said, okay, 33% is okay. That is 1/3 of the workforce. Safe distance between working workers in accordance with prescribed health advisory, etc., and to prevent contagiousness from spreading. Now, if the employer is required to shut down its operations on account of COVID-19, now you see, we have opened the industries, but tomorrow a time may come, then we again have to shut it down. If the figures go exponentially high of the infected people, and then there was something very scary I heard yesterday on television by some American scientists that the worst of the coronavirus is yet to come. So I started thinking with myself as to what worse is yet to come. But then they say, and the scientists understand it better. So if the situation may arise tomorrow, employers must assess whether their operations fall under the prohibited or permitted category of the view of the orders of the central government and state government. Now, employers must review the exceptions set out in the lockdown. And generally speaking, what are essential services? We have to find essential services. And the government has already declared that is medical services, internet services, banking, media, milk, this, that, e-commerce, food, medicines, everything is essential. Further, manufacturing units requiring continuous process may continue subject to the permission of local authorities. Some really had problems in getting those permissions also. Anyway, now this is very important. Are there any statutory which may trigger during the lockdown? The lockdown may trigger the requirements of layoff under Industrial Disputes Act. Now you see, layoff, you have to also see those companies where model standing orders are applicable in state of Maharashtra, they are applicable after 50 employees, 50 workmen in the sense, working in. Now here you have to see model standing order 18. Model standing order 18 mentions the word epidemic. An epidemic is also defined section under the Epidemics Act 1897. And here, if there is an epidemic and a catastrophe and this and that, the manager is allowed to stop the machine. Manager means manager is a definition in the model standing orders. To stop the machine or a department also. Now, standing order 19 says the layoff is, has a connection with standing order 18. The layoff because of standing order 18, then you can have the leave with pay and then adjust the leaves that somebody's leave is to his balance, and then there was a layoff. Standing order 20 is layoff for, now here we come after the lockdown. After the lockdown, standing order 20 says that the layoff is for shortage of orders. So you can lay off people for 6 days they could be laid off maximum. So this is, we have to see 18, 19 and 20 in conjunction. Of course, there is much more material to it and our time is also limited, but I go further. Just at this instance, we see that the standing orders 18, 19 and 20 correlated with each other are going to come into picture. Industrial Disputes Act stimulates payment of layoff compensation to the workmen, of course, and the provisions of the model standing order, certified or model, both have to be seen depending on the industry. Now, can the employer declare period of lockdown as a leave without pay? Now, during the advisories, that is 31st of March, when the advisories were there, the question was whether it could be curtailed by any method, and then that would smack of colorability, which simply says that the employers, if he cannot do a certain thing directly, he cannot do it indirectly also. But our question here, for workmen, leave without pay would be difficult to implement in view of the provisions of Section 9A of the Industrial Disputes Act, that is notice of change, read with the 4th schedule. And as for managerial employees, basically they are governed under the contract terms or of contract under the Indian Contract Act 1872. So a plan for payment of their salaries keeping in view the state advisories. State advisories are very clear that do not purposely put anybody into a tight corner. People are really in a very gloomy state of affairs because of the lockdown, and you don't add fuel to the fire. But we have to see. For workmen, at least some labor laws are there, but with managerial staff, the employer also has to be a bit sensitive, sympathetic also and empathetic also, that I mean, you should not make use of the situation to have salary cuts. And it is urged that the employer should not deduct employees' salaries during the initial closure period. Can the principal employer claim force majeure as regards engagement of contract workers through a manpower service provider? Now, it's in the fitness of things here to understand, friends, as to what is force majeure itself. Some of our friends are new to the subject, so it's my duty to make it simple. What is force majeure? Force majeure means an effect in event or that can be neither anticipated nor controlled. Now, you see, did you know what if COVID-19 is coming? Neither did I. Both of us never knew. Forget it. There's a family astrologer we have. He also failed to look at this and then make a comment on this as to whether he said it's a very rosy picture for me after March, and the only rosy picture for me, as far as my fortune was concerned, was to sit at home. Okay, so the jokes apart, principal employer should review the manpower services agreement executed with the vendors and contractors. And then, if there is no force majeure clause covering situations of epidemic, the provisions of Indian Contract Act yet will apply. Some have entered vendor contracts, gardening contracts, transport contracts. What happens to them? And they say there is no force majeure there. No, even then Contract Act will apply. Yet as regards COVID-19, answer to the question claiming force majeure is not a definitive one, and several factors have to be seen. Now, employees can be asked to work from home. Do they need to be paid full for such work? Some say he is working from home, so why should I pay full pay? No, you have to pay the full pay. Employees can be asked to work from home during the lockdown. Now, question is, who asked him to work from home? Employee has not asked. You have asked him. The employer has asked him to work from home. So employees should have paid full salaries during such time. Same number of hours have been working from office. Otherwise, you will be violating Section 7 of the Payment of Wages Act 1936. And then suppose if you deduct something from the employee's pay packet saying that you are working from home, so I'm going to give you a reduced pay, then this is an illegality under Section 7 of the Payment of Wages Act 1936, which amounts to or which describes what are illegal deductions. Monitoring should be there, else it becomes a debatable question. In industry where employee cannot work from home, do they need to be paid during the period of lockdown? Yes, the employee should be need to be paid during the initial period of lockdown. Employees of such unit will be deemed to be on duty, and similar directives have been issued by other state governments also. Just because he is at home, no, he is on duty and you have to pay him the full payment. That's the only answer. Okay, I go further. Can employees be asked to utilize their accrued annual leave for the lockdown? Once such leave has been exhausted, can they be placed on unpaid leave? What are the other alternatives? The answer is no. Employees are entitled to use their accrued annual leave at their discretion. Basically, what is leave itself? If you see the standing orders, or if you see any of the Bombay shops establishments, or the misconduct of leave itself, if I want leave, who applies for leave? Simple question. If the employee wants leave, he will apply for leave. And you telling him something is forcing him to apply for a leave, which cannot be allowed. Leaving is always voluntary. They cannot be mandated by the employer to do so. Further, employees are eligible to encash their accrued but unavailed leave at the time of cessation from the employment. And here you have to see when can encashment be allowed under Bombay Shops and Establishments and Factories Act, and whatever is the mandate of the legislature that has to be followed. But you cannot compel the employee that you have to go on leave, because that's his voluntary option. In industries that are exempt from lockdown, can employees be forced to take sick or annual leave if they have recent travel history? Now you see, otherwise, this is common sense that you will spread the disease. So if you have been infected, even government says you have to be in quarantine for 14 to 28 days. Then they will declare him negative, and then he can go and mix and mingle with all others. Employees unable to attend work due to the requirement of self-quarantine, and the employer could possibly require the employee to take her annual sick leave subject to any specific government notification. Now you see, some adjustments could be possible, but then you have to see what is the government notification. During the lockdown, there was a total ban on this. Now it is relaxed. So depending on whatever is the settlement I said, if at all there is a recognized union, with the recognized union, if these things can be sorted on a win-win basis, that's the best thing any employer could do. Employer had to travel because the employer not be able to force the employees to utilize a sick or annual leave. In this context, government of Karnataka, we saw this, that they have allowed 28 days. I go further. Can employees be asked to share their medical test reports with the employer? And are there any concerns for a data privacy perspective? Medical data is in electronic form is considered personal and sensitive data. And you cannot compel a person. Employers can require employees to submit a fitness certificate. And we saw model standing order number 27A, wherein it is the right of the employer to ask for a medical certificate. Employers in most cases reserve the right to require employees to provide a medical certificate, and then you have to take recourse to the standing order certified or model. But now, if the medical certificate is in an electronic form, the employer requirements prescribed under the Information Technology Act 2000, information technology reasonable security practices and procedures, and sensitive personal data or information rules and security practices rules, they have to be seen. Now you see there are laws for everything. An electronic report, but then this brings in so many laws. The security practice rules require that consent of the information provider has to be obtained and purpose of the usage of the information that is collected. Why do you want this information? You have to tell him, and then make it simple that we want it because we have to understand whether you are fit or not. And if you are not fit, we will help you to be fit by referring you to the municipal authorities or whoever are the municipal corporation people. But then this is what the law says. Then exhibiting symptoms of corona-19 or have been close contact with person. Currently, there are no obligations that have been placed on an employer. The first line I cannot read here because the slide has traveled a bit up. Employers advise such employees to seek medical help and to inform the local authorities and cooperate with the local authorities for contact mapping. Now you see that what is ultimately Arogya Setu. Arogya Setu goes in for contact mapping, and then you also have an idea as to how many people are coronavirus in your locality, in your ward, 3 kilometers from your house, and within a radius of 5 kilometers, what is the position thing you understand. In industries that are exempt from lockdown, can employees refuse to report to work fearing all possible contraction? Now, some are so timid, and some say that if I go out, corona is going to attack me. The answer is no. Employee cannot refuse to report to work. Now, this is all settled. He has to. Otherwise, it's better that he himself understands and resigns. Unless the minimum standards of health safety. One more thing. He says that you have not, your industry does not prescribe to the minimum standards of hygiene, safety, and health, and you are forcing me to work in an environment which ultimately is going to declare me as corona positive. Now, to contain the pandemic, and they are not being followed by the employer. In this event, employee who is healthy refuses, the employer can initiate disciplinary action is one part. But then in this case, if employees think that really there is nothing, answer is very simple. He can go to the municipal corporation, ask them to have an inspection, and the rest of the game is between the employer and the corporation. He cannot say all the while that it is but because of this I am refusing. Can hours of work and wages be reduced to absorb impact on the business during the lockdown and thereafter? Is it possible to employers to pause benefits and incentives till business situation is normal? Yes. It is possible for an employer to reduce work hours and wages. See, the word is reducing work hours and wages. Wages, if at all, Section 9A comes into picture. If you have a settlement, but otherwise, unilaterally you cannot do because you ought to have a notice of change. Else, that would be an illegal change. You have to see legislative sanctions. An employer may also pause non-statutory benefits, whatever is possible. But then you see these are different positions for managers and workmen. But then in the fitness of things, as far as workmen are concerned, you settlement under Section 9A of the Industrial Disputes Act. And as far as managers are concerned, I mean, they are not workmen. So you have some sort of an arrangement or an agreement with them and then enter into a win-win situation. Can an employer implement a reduction in workforce because the business impact? If yes, what is the process? Government has issued a circular stating that if the place of employment is made non-operational, such unit will be deemed to be on duty. Now the circulars were there. Similar circulars advising employees not to reduce or stop salary or to terminate. And this we have seen because this matter traveled up the advisory, especially signed by Ajay Mehta, Chief Secretary of Government of Maharashtra, not to reduce the wages, not to terminate, And then there were so many cases. Alak Srivastav's case, I did make a mention, traveled up to the Supreme Court, and the judgment is by Honorable Chief Justice and Nageshwar Rao, wherein directions have been given. Okay. Now there are some issues, DMA issues. I mean, don't get frightened at the content of the slide because I'm not going to read it, but just a line. What is section 68 of the DMA says some people or in some quarters there are voices and whispers that, I mean, there are no rules, and these rules cannot be made operative under the garb of DMA, that is disaster management. Section 68 says authentication of orders and decisions. Now 72, I read earlier also, that notwithstanding anything inconsistent or contained in any law. This is also okay. So other laws remain paralyzed, and then we bring in DMA further, and as well as the advisories. Some say advisory does not have a binding effect only, and this is in the nature of advice. But this is set at rest by Honorable Justice Sharad Bobde and Nageshwar Rao in the judgment which I just now mentioned, Alak Srivastav. 75 says power of central government to make rules. So central government should be making rules and then notifying it also in the official gazette. And have they made rules? And then the answer is that there are no rules only. But 76 says power to make regulations. National Institute will make of disaster management with the previous approval of central government may by notification in the official gazette make regulations. Now you see under the DMA there is a 3-tier system. One is the Chief Secretary, Central, Chief Secretary State, and then there is a district magistrate, that is the district collector. Now it travels, that is okay, delegated legislations. Now we go further. 77 says, I just read the underline, that when the rules and regulations are made, they have to be laid before the parliament, and both the houses have to agree that the rule or regulation should not be made. Then the rule or regulation shall have an effect only in the modified form. In simple words, that it has to be placed before the parliament. And there are noises from some quarters that this was not done. So what is the sanctity and sacrament as far as the rules under the Disaster Management Act 2005 are concerned? For which the answer lies in section 77, and that is why I have increased the font. Power to remove difficulties. 79 says, if any difficulty arises in giving effect to the provisions of this act, the central government or the state government, as the case may be, by notification. So government has understood that there is some difficulty in giving, any difficulty arises in giving effect to the provisions of this act. So what are they empowered? May make an order not inconsistent with the provisions of this act, as may appear it to be necessary or expedient for the removal of this disease. Suppose even if there is a difficulty, yet the government is empowered to make an order. Of course, it should not be inconsistent with the object of the Disaster Management Act, as it may appear it to be necessary. So this is, see, India, we always say that India is united, it has federal features. This is one of them. In 1 second, India can be united. And then we see that certain things have remained. Come on, there were no rules and this and that. It was not led before the parliament, and within 30 days of both the sessions of the house, everything understood. Yet, government is having a power to remove the difficulties and implement the orders. Now, if there is any duty for the employer to compensate employees who have contracted the virus. Now, you see, I am an employee. I go to the industry, start working. Earlier, I am Helen Harty. Now, when I go to the industry, I catch a coronavirus because of some XYZ. What is the obligation of the employer? Currently, there is no requirement of an employer to compensate employees who have contracted the virus. Some state governments that 28 days leave, that is okay. Point is, I say that my employer is vicariously liable, and it is but because of you. I contracted the virus. If an employee gets infected due to coming to work, a tortious claim for damages I will say it's but because of you. And moreover, with all your judgments on doctrine of notional extension, which Supreme Court has laid down, doctrine of notional extension says, why did you leave the house? Where do you want to go? I want to go to the company. And on the road, say I was bitten by a snake. Compensation has been made payable under the doctrine of notional extension. That is, you have to notionally extend the employment. Some people might take recourse to the same thing. Earlier, I was quite okay. You see my fitness certificates, which I have already submitted to my employer under model standing order number 727A. So now I am fit and fine. But because of coming to the industry, I have contacted coronavirus. So what about my damages? First is under tortious claims. And secondly, I will say that the employer himself is vicariously liable. Second, then are there any employment law issues that should be kept in mind while implementing work from home models? I'll not read the slide again. In this regard, work hour and overtime laws would continue to apply to employees. So all these things will have to be taken into consideration. Work hour and overtime. Ask a person to work for 17 hours and then he is to work only for 8 hours. What about the remaining time? Naturally, overtime will follow. Okay. And then we come to the third segment and the last segment, that is opportunities after the lockdown. As I said, there is no tough time. Yes. Yeah. No, this is the last slide, only one slide, and then it is over. I'll still be opportunities. So let us not lose the opportunity of seeing as to what are the opportunities. First is the government schemes. Second is China, 1,000 industries at present, that is the biggest opportunity. Third is collaborations with other countries. And some countries are looking to move their investments away from China. And then it's music for Indian ears that some countries are leaving China. And then it is still more music that they are going to enter into India. And that is why the red carpet and all of those. And then lastly, we see people have started realizing the importance of going digital. Being tech enabled is just not competitive advantage anymore. It has become a necessity. So we all, even now, we could have met in a hall, but it is but because of the internet, we are meeting on this platform, which is much more convenient than meeting in a hall. And lastly, even courts and high courts, they are also going digital. So this is what we see. Now, whatever was possible in the limited time, I have tried to touch upon. And if at all there are any difficulties, well, remaining, this is my mail. You can mail me.
Yes.
Whatever. Or any difficulties are there, I will be more than happy to answer. Yes. And a big thank you to all of you all for being so much of exhibiting so much of patience. Okay, it's not. If I were to listen to myself for such a length of time, I mean, I would have been exhausted out of patience quite earlier. I mean, you have exhibited more patience than I have. Okay. Anyway, thank you so much.
Thank you
Pune
so much.
Management Association, OHR and HRO. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thanks
for
a lot to all the participants, and similarly,
thank you. Thank you.
session by Advocate Srikanth Malgaonkar. It is not easy to have so many slides with so much of knowledge during this time. Thanks a lot, sir. Thank you very much. Most of the questions
Thanks a
were
lot, sir.
already
It was excellent
taken, and
time.
we have prepared the session on the basis of those questions.
Okay.
So I think all those questions have been already answered. Please take care. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Good night. Take care.
Thank you.